Okay, I want to kind of show a point here now. I put handles on those two Collins axes, and I use the straight handles. Like I say, I kind of prefer them, but also if you have an axe that you will be using as a hammer, if you're going to be striking with it, you really want a straight handle. It kind of gets screwed up. If you have a curved handle, you're working the handle upside down. It really doesn't work that well. So I put straight handles on both of these. And I tend to prefer the straight handles anyway. Now, when I did this, the common knowledge is always the grain runs like this. And you can see on this one, it might be a little deceptive. You see lines here, they're actually rasp marks, but the grain is like this, almost straight up and down. There's a slight curve to it because, there again, you don't have square trees. But it's almost perfectly up and down, and that's what people look for. That's what they think they need. I know I have seen where people doing a review on an axe that they bought online, and then they say the grain orientation was completely wrong. That they've got it into their head that it has to be this way. So I searched when I was looking at handles, and I found one that I put on this one that is completely the wrong way. Exactly what common knowledge will tell you is wrong, or what's accepted. People don't think these things through, but they accept that that's what it has to be. Figuring this is going to be so much stronger. It isn't stronger. The strength is the same one way or the other. The difference is this is stiffer going that way. This will flex more. This absorbs shock better than what this does. I always do this when I make my dog sleds, or I make the runners, or any of the slats, or the parts I bend for bows. I always make sure that the grain runs, like say this way. If the runner is going to be going this way, I always have it running this way. It has more flex to it, and you need the flex. You can't have a rigid rudder. It has to be able to flex as it goes over the ground. So that's really the only difference between the two. This one is rigid this way, this one is rigid this way. But for shock absorbing, this works good. Now, you run into problems, like if you're working with a curved handle, you can't hardly find something that the grain is going to follow that curve on the handle. Unless you make it, or you're incredibly lucky. Now, on a straight handle, that's not so bad. Because this one, I can trace that the grain is perfectly straight all the way down the handle. Now, if you had a curved one, you'd have to worry about that because, as the curves go, then it would want to break and snap in them spots. But if you're working with a straight handle, there's nothing wrong with this. Actually, it's preferable to this. When you're pounding on something, it's better to have that little bit of flex in there. It just absorbs the shock better. But you will see, everybody, this is what they want. Though it isn't necessarily what they need. But this is what's accepted. I just think it's funny, but like I say, when I'm making anything, I'm really thinking grain. You got to think of the grain for the use that you're putting the item to. I can guarantee you this isn't going to break any quicker than this is going to break. But I have seen new axes, somebody will buy a really expensive new axe and then they'll break the handle. Part of it's just the people who buy the real expensive axes tend to not know what they're doing with an axe. And they'll say, well, how could this break? The grain on the back is perfect. Yeah, but that don't mean, that perfect up and down can run off at an angle, and that's what happens. You see them, they'll break right up here. You got to use some judgment on these things, but I can guarantee you there's going to be no problem with that axe. It's hard to find, because they're both Bowman handles, and almost all the Bowman handles are like this. I had a heck of I searched through, must have been 50 handles to find one where I could get this grain going across, because I wanted to prove that point.